First contact shock. Junior navigator Zara Vex stared at the quantum scanner's display, her crystalline fingers hovering over the controls as she tried to process what she was seeing. The signal was unlike anything she'd encountered in her 3 cycles of service aboard the Aetherian survey vessel Starweaver. It pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. "Control, this is navigation. I'm picking up an anomalous signal in Sector 7, she reported, her voice crystals vibrating with barely contained excitement. "Pattern suggests artificial origin, but it doesn't match any known species signatures in our database." Captain Lyra Nexus' response came immediately through the ship's harmonic communication system. "Another trading vessel trying to mask their signature to avoid tariffs, Navigator." "No, Captain. This is different." Zara's sensor fronds extended fully, absorbing every detail of the reading. "The energy signature suggests a fusion drive, but it's operating at temperatures that should be impossible to contain. And the hull composition." She trailed off, her crystalline structure flickering with disbelief. "Spit it out, Navigator. What about the hull?" "It appears to be primarily iron-based, Captain. Operating in space, without degradation." The bridge fell silent. Every Aetherian knew that iron-based materials were theoretically excellent for spaceship construction, but the energy required to prevent space rot made them impractical. Only one species was ever rumored to have mastered such technology. Captain Nexus materialized beside Zara's station, her command crystals glowing with authority. "Show me everything." The main view screen filled with data streams as Zara projected her readings. The mysterious vessel was large, approximately twice the size of the Starweaver, with a design that seemed to defy conventional wisdom. Its hull was thick, unnecessarily so by Aetherian standards, and its life support readings. "That can't be right," Captain Nexus muttered, her structure dimming slightly in shock. "These atmospheric readings suggest oxygen-nitrogen mix, Captain," Zara confirmed, "at pressures that would shatter most species' cellular structures. And the gravity readings from within the vessel are even more impossible." The captain's command crystals pulsed rapidly, a sign of intense thought. "Navigator Vex, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" Zara's voice crystals trembled as she spoke the words that would change everything. "Captain, I believe we've just found humans. And if these readings are accurate, the stories about them might have been understatements." The bridge erupted in a cascade of crystalline chimes as the crew reacted. Humans were supposed to be myths, cautionary tales about a species so hardy they could survive conditions that would destroy most life forms. They were said to have evolved on a death world with crushing gravity, constant radiation, and an atmosphere of corrosive gases. Parents told their children stories about humans who could survive in vacuum for short periods, who could repair bones that had been completely severed, who could continue fighting even after losing significant amounts of their internal fluids. "Impossible." Science officer Yuri Teth chimed in, his research crystals glowing skeptically. "Humans are stories invented to make young crystals appreciate their environmental suits. Next, you'll tell me they really do drink liquid oxidizers for pleasure." "Actually," Zara said, pulling up more scan data, "I'm detecting significant quantities of hydrogen dioxide in their storage systems, in liquid form." The science officer's crystalline form nearly shattered from shock. "They're carrying around liquid water inside their ship, voluntarily." Captain Nexus raised her command crystals, silencing the growing chaos. "Whether we believe in humans or not, there's a ship out there with technology we've never seen before. Navigator Vex, can you determine their current status?" Zara focused her sensors on the vessel. "They appear to be on a standard patrol route, Captain. Their weapon systems are powered but not charged, suggesting a peaceful stance. And..." She paused, her sensor fronds tingling. "They're scanning us too. They've noticed us." The captain's command crystals flickered with concern. "Yes, and, Captain, we're receiving a transmission. In perfect galactic standard. The bridge fell silent again as a voice filled their communication crystals. It was smooth, confident, and thoroughly impossible. Etherian vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Ship Horizon. We noticed you scanning us and thought we'd save you the trouble of wondering. Yes, we're human. Yes, we're real. And yes, we'd be delighted to establish diplomatic contact, assuming you're not too busy convincing yourselves we don't exist. The humor in the human's voice was unmistakable, and Zara found her crystal structure resonating with unexpected warmth. The myths were wrong about humans, but not in the way anyone had expected. They weren't just survivors of a death world. They were masters of it, and they had turned their harsh evolution into a source of strength and advancement. Captain Nexus straightened her form, command crystals glowing with official authority. Well, Navigator Vex, it seems you've made the discovery of the century. Open a channel. Let's make history. As Zara prepared the communication systems, she couldn't help but wonder what other human myths would turn out to be true, or more interestingly, what truths would turn out to be even more remarkable than the myths. One thing was certain, space patrol duty would never be boring again. The channel opened with a crystalline chime, and Captain Nexus spoke words that would be recorded in every Etherian history crystal. Earth Ship Horizon, this is Captain Lyra Nexus of the Etherian survey vessel Starweaver. We are honored to meet you. Though I must admit, we have so many questions. That's funny, Captain Chen replied, and Zora could hear the smile in her voice. So do we. For starters, how do beings made of living crystal manage to be so flexible? We've got quite a lot to teach each other, it seems. As the two captains began their historic conversation, Zora's sensor fronds tingled with excitement. She had a feeling the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. The meeting. The Starweaver's preparation chamber hummed with nervous energy as the delegation readied themselves for first contact. Zara adjusted her environmental suit for the third time, her crystalline structure shimmering with anticipation. The humans had offered to host the meeting on their vessel, which had prompted a 2-hour debate about safety protocols. Run through the safety checks one more time, Captain Nexus ordered, her command crystals pulsing steadily. Environmental seals. Triple-checked. Science Officer Yuri Teth responded, his research crystals glowing as he scanned each suit. Though I still think it's madness to board a ship filled with corrosive gases and liquid water. Noted, Science Officer, the captain replied dryly. But since the humans somehow managed to live in those conditions, I think we can survive a brief visit. Navigator Vex, status of the translation crystals. Zara checked the delicate instruments integrated into their suits. Operating at peak efficiency, Captain. The humans' translation software is surprisingly sophisticated. They've already adapted it to account for our crystalline resonance patterns. Of course they have, Yuri muttered, because apparently mastering fusion power and defying material physics wasn't impressive enough. The airlock cycled, and Zara felt her structure tense as the docking tube extended between the ships. Captain Chen had assured them they'd adjusted the Horizon's artificial gravity and atmosphere in the diplomatic section to accommodate Etherian physiology, but it was still unnerving to willingly board a vessel that normally maintained conditions that would shatter their crystalline forms. The human welcoming party waited at the other end of the tube. Zara's sensors registered their impossible biology with fascination. They were upright beings with internal mineral scaffolding covered in flexible organic tissue, maintaining homeostasis despite the presence of liquid water throughout their systems. Captain Chen stood at the front, and Zara noticed she wore what appeared to be a formal uniform rather than the environmental suit the Aetherians had expected. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," Chen said warmly. "I apologize for our appearance. We considered wearing environmental suits to make you more comfortable, but we thought it might be better to help you acclimate to our natural form." Captain Nexus's command crystals flickered in what Zara recognized as surprised appreciation. "Most thoughtful, Captain Chen. Though I must admit, seeing you standing there without protection is unsettling." Chen laughed, a sound that made several Etherians' crystals resonate sympathetically. I understand completely. From our perspective, it's equally fascinating to meet a species composed of living crystal. Our xenobiologists are practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. Speaking of walls, Uri interjected, his research crystals pulsing rapidly as he scanned their surroundings. Your ship's construction is remarkable. The energy required to maintain these iron-based alloys in space must be. Actually, one of the human officers, Chief Engineer Rodriguez, stepped forward. We developed a passive protection system centuries ago. The real trick was learning to grow the protective layers at a molecular level rather than trying to shield the entire structure. Yuri's form flickered in shock. Grow them? You're saying these walls are living metal, in a sense, Rodriguez confirmed. We borrowed the concept from our own biology. Like human bones, the hull can repair and reinforce itself in response to stress. The science officer's crystals pulsed so intensely that his suit's dampeners activated to prevent resonance damage. Zara couldn't blame him. The casual way the humans discussed what should have been impossible technology was both thrilling and terrifying. Chen gestured toward a nearby doorway. Shall we move to the conference room? We've prepared some refreshments, all safely synthesized to be compatible with your biology. As they walked, Zara found herself next to a human junior officer who introduced herself as Lieutenant Emily Wong. I have to ask, Wong said, her eyes bright with curiosity. How do crystalline beings handle faster than light travel? We assumed the quantum stress would be problematic. Actually, our crystalline nature makes us particularly suited for it, Zora explained, pleased to share knowledge in return. Our entire structure can align with quantum fields, making transitions much smoother than for most organic species. Fascinating. Wang's enthusiasm was contagious. Have you ever considered applying that principle to computational systems? The potential for quantum processing would be. Their technical discussion was interrupted by a startled cry from Uri. The science officer had stopped dead in his tracks, his research crystals straining in alarm. Is that liquid water just sitting there? In an open container. They had reached the conference room, where a decorative fountain played in one corner. Captain Chen looked embarrassed. Oh, I'm so sorry. We thought it would help maintain humidity for our comfort, but we can drain it immediately if it's causing distress. No, Captain Nexus intervened, her command crystals emanating calm authority despite her own visible unease. We need to learn to adapt to each other's environments. Though perhaps we could start with smaller amounts of free-floating liquid. The humans quickly covered the fountain, and the meeting proceeded. As they discussed everything from technological exchange to cultural differences, Zara found herself repeatedly amazed by the humans' adaptability. They had taken the harsh conditions of their homeworld and turned them into advantages, developed technology that worked with natural laws rather than trying to overcome them, and maintained a sense of curiosity that rivaled the Etherians' own crystalline clarity of thought. There is one thing I've been wondering, Captain Chen said during a brief pause in the discussions. Your historical records must have some basis for the myths about humans. Where did those stories come from? Captain Nexus's command crystals dimmed slightly in embarrassment. There were encounters centuries ago. Brief ones, poorly documented. A human ship would appear, perform what seemed like impossible feats, and vanish again. Without context, without understanding your biology and technology, those encounters became legends. Chen nodded thoughtfully. That would have been during our early expansion period. We weren't ready for full diplomatic contact then. Too busy trying to figure out our own place in the galaxy. But now, she smiled. Now we're ready to turn those myths into a much more interesting reality. As the meeting continued, Zora's sensor fronds tingled with excitement. The galaxy had just become a much more interesting place, and she had a feeling this was only the beginning of a fascinating partnership between their species. Crisis point. The warning came without preamble. Zara's sensor fronds detected the anomaly, just as the Horizon systems blared to life. A massive solar flare from the nearby star had destabilized, creating a quantum cascade that threatened both ships. That's not supposed to happen for another 3 decades, Uri exclaimed, his research crystals flickering frantically as he analyzed the data. The human and Aetherian delegations had been in the middle of discussing potential technological exchanges when the crisis struck. Captain Chen was already moving, her movements swift and decisive. Rodriguez, status of our shields. We can handle the radiation, Captain, but the quantum disruption is another story. The engineer replied, fingers flying over his control panel. These readings are off the charts. Zara watched in fascination as the humans shifted from diplomatic mode to crisis response. There was no panic, no hesitation, just immediate, coordinated action. Captain Nexus's command crystals pulsed in harmony with Chen's orders, both leaders instinctively working together. The Starweaver's quantum fields can protect us from the worst of the cascade, Captain Nexus offered, but we don't have enough power to extend the field around both ships. And our shields can handle the radiation but not the quantum effects, Chen mused. But what if we combine them? Yuri's crystalline structure vibrated with alarm. Impossible. The energy requirements alone would. Actually, Zara interrupted, her navigation crystals brightening with sudden insight. It could work. The humans' fusion drives produce more than enough power. If we could synchronize their shield harmonics with our quantum fields. The math works, Lieutenant Wang confirmed, already running calculations. But we'd need to modify both systems on the fly. And the timing would have to be perfect. Captain Chen smiled. Perfect timing happens to be one of our specialties. Rodriguez, how fast can you adapt our shield generators? Give me 5 minutes and some duct tape. Duct tape. Yuri's translation crystals struggled with the term. You don't want to know, Wang said with a grin. But trust me, it works. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Zara found herself working alongside Wang, their different biologies forgotten as they calculated the precise frequencies needed to merge their technologies. The humans moved with surprising speed, making complex modifications to their systems with a confidence that bordered on reckless, except every change worked exactly as intended. Ready on our end, Rodriguez announced, his hands covered in something gray and sticky that made Yuri's research crystals pulse with concern. Quantum fields at maximum, Captain Nexus confirmed. Navigator Vex. Synchronization calculations complete, Zora reported. But the timing window is incredibly narrow. We'll need to align both systems within a fraction of a second. I'll handle it, Wang volunteered. When several Aetherians vibrated with doubt, she added, human reaction times might seem slow to you, but we've learned to compensate in interesting ways. Trust me. The quantum cascade was visible now, a distortion in space that made both organic and crystalline sensors scream in protest. Captain Chen stepped forward, her expression intense but calm. On my mark, she ordered. 3, 2, 1. Now. Wang's fingers danced across the controls with impossible precision. Zara felt the Starweaver's quantum field surge, reaching out to merge with the Horizon's modified shields. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the energies synchronized, creating a protective bubble around both ships just as the cascade struck. The combined shield glowed with otherworldly beauty, human technology, and Aetherian quantum manipulation working in perfect harmony. The cascade raged around them, but inside their protected zone, both crews watched in amazement as their impossible collaboration held firm. Energy levels stable, Rodriguez reported, sounding slightly surprised by their success. The quantum disruption is being channeled through the Aetherian fields, and our shields are handling the radiation bleed-off. It's actually working better than we calculated. Of course it is, Wang said proudly. We're using the quantum cascade's own energy to reinforce the field. The worse it gets out there, the stronger our protection becomes. Yuri's research crystals strobed with disbelief. You planned that. Not exactly, Wang admitted. But we noticed the possibility in the calculations and figured it was worth a shot. Worth a shot. Yuri's crystalline form flickered, and what Zora had learned was his equivalent of a shocked laugh. You made a split-second decision to modify our synchronized shields based on a theoretical possibility, while we were already attempting an unprecedented technological merger in the middle of a crisis. That's pretty much how we operate, Rodriguez said with a shrug. When Plan A works better than expected, we like to improvise improvements. Captain Nexus's command crystals pulsed with what might have been amusement. I'm beginning to understand why your species has survived so many impossible situations, Captain Chen. It's not just survival, Chen replied, watching the swirling energies outside. It's adaptation. Humans don't just endure challenges. We learn from them, improve upon them, and ultimately turn them to our advantage. But I must say, having allies who can manipulate quantum fields makes the process much more interesting. The crisis lasted another hour, during which the combined crews discovered 3 more ways to improve their hybrid shielding system. By the time the quantum cascade dissipated, both ships had gathered enough data to revolutionize their defensive technologies. More importantly, they had proven that humans and Aetherians could work together in ways neither species had imagined possible. As the emergency subsided and the crews began powering down their synchronized systems, Zura noticed something remarkable. The humans and Aetherians had stopped maintaining careful distance from each other. Engineers from both species were crowded around displays, discussing modifications and improvements with complete disregard for their biological differences. Even Yuri was deep in conversation with Rodriguez, his research crystals pulsing with excitement as they debated the physics of their improvised shield improvements. Remarkable species, aren't they? Captain Nexus said quietly to Zora. They turn catastrophe into opportunity, fear into innovation, and impossible situations into chances to prove that nothing is truly impossible. Zara watched as Wong began explaining the concept of duct tape to a fascinated group of Aetherian engineers, complete with enthusiastic hand gestures. Yes, she agreed, her crystals resonating with newfound understanding. But I think we're learning that we're pretty remarkable ourselves, especially when we work together. Understanding. After the quantum cascade crisis, both ships remained in close proximity for what the humans called joint systems analysis and the Aetherians termed revelatory knowledge exchange. Zora found herself spending increasing time with Lieutenant Wong, each fascinated by the other's perspective on space travel. So you actually feel the quantum fields? Wong asked as they sat in the Horizon's observation deck, now safely modified for Aetherian presence. A holographic display showed their successful shield modification data, rotating slowly between them. More than feel them, Zora explained, her navigation crystals shimming with excitement. We resonate with them. It's like, how do you humans say it? Like being in tune with the universe itself. That must be incredible, Wong mused. We have to rely on instruments to detect quantum fluctuations, though I suppose that's pushed us to develop more sensitive equipment. That's what fascinates me about humans, Zora admitted. You take what others would see as limitations and turn them into advantages. Like your reaction to the Cascade crisis, you didn't just survive it, you improved upon it. Wong laughed. That's humanity in a nutshell. We're too stubborn to accept limitations and too curious to leave well enough alone. Did you know we originally went to space partly because someone said it was impossible? Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion from the engineering section. Rodriguez and Uri emerged, both covered in what appeared to be a fine crystalline dust. The human engineer was grinning widely, while Uri's research crystals were pulsing with more energy than Zara had ever seen. It worked, Rodriguez announced triumphantly. We successfully grew a hybrid crystal matrix around the shield emitters. Yuri's resonance patterns are already improving the efficiency by 30%. 37.8%, Yuri corrected, his entire form vibrating with excitement. And that's just the initial integration. Once we fully understand how the crystalline structure interacts with your electromagnetic fields, Captain Chen entered the observation deck, followed by Captain Nexus. Both leaders had developed an easy rapport over the past few days, their different commanding styles complementing each other surprisingly well. "I see the engineering experiment was successful," Chen observed, brushing some crystal dust from Rodriguez's shoulder, "though perhaps a bit messier than anticipated." "Creative progress is rarely tidy," Captain Nexus chimed in, her command crystals pulsing with amusement. "Though I must admit, watching Yuri embrace human-style experimental procedures has been enlightening." "Speaking of enlightening," Chen said, "our medical teams have made some fascinating discoveries. Dr. Harrison, would you care to share?" The Horizon's chief medical officer stepped forward, accompanied by the Starweaver's crystalline healer, Mira Lux. "We've been studying the biological adaptations that allow both our species to survive in space," Harrison explained. "The results are remarkable." Mira's healing crystals sparkled as she projected a comparative hologram. "Humans evolved under conditions we Aetherians would consider catastrophic: high gravity, corrosive atmosphere, constant radiation. But instead of avoiding these challenges, they developed internal systems to thrive in them." Meanwhile, Harrison continued, "the Aetherian crystalline structure represents a completely different but equally viable approach to space adaptation. Their bodies naturally resist radiation, can withstand extreme temperature variations, and process energy in ways we never imagined possible. But here's the truly fascinating part," Mira added. "When we combine our knowledge, the potential applications are extraordinary. Human biological resilience combined with Aetherian crystal technology could revolutionize everything from spacesuit design to habitat construction." Zara watched the medical presentation with growing wonder. Every new discovery seemed to highlight how their species' differences could become shared strengths. The humans' determination to overcome their biological limitations had driven them to develop technologies that perfectly complemented Aetherian natural abilities. "There's something else," Wang said quietly to Zara. "Something we've noticed about how your crystals interact with our electronic systems. We think we might be able to develop a true human-Aetherian interface. Not just translation, but actual shared consciousness." Zara's structure flickered with surprise. "Is that even possible?" "A week ago, I would have said no," Wang admitted. "But after seeing how our shields synchronized, how your quantum sensitivity enhances our technology, why not? We're already proving that anything's possible when we work together." Captain Chen overheard their conversation and smiled. "That's the real discovery here, isn't it? Not just that humans exist, or that we can survive in hostile conditions, but that our species can truly understand each other, learn from each other, grow together." "Indeed," Captain Nexus agreed, her command crystals glowing warmly. "The old stories about humans painted you as survivors, as beings who could endure anything. But they missed the most important part. You don't just survive, you innovate. You take challenges and turn them into opportunities for growth. And you," Chen responded, "have shown us that there are ways of existing in space we never imagined. Your crystalline nature isn't just beautiful. It's a completely different way of experiencing the universe." As the discussion continued, Zara noticed something remarkable. Throughout the observation deck, humans and Aetherians were working together with complete naturalness, their biological differences forgotten in their shared excitement over new discoveries. Yuri was explaining crystal resonance patterns to a group of human engineers, his usual skepticism replaced by enthusiastic gestures. Rodriguez was sketching modifications to the shield generators, while 3 Aetherian technicians offered suggestions, their crystals pulsing in harmony with his ideas. "It's amazing," Wang said, following Zara's gaze. "A week ago, you thought we were myths, and we didn't even know crystalline life was possible. Now look at us. We're basically inventing new laws of physics together." Zara's navigation crystals shimmered with happiness. "Perhaps that's the greatest discovery of all. Not just that our differences make us stronger together, but that those very differences can lead to completely new possibilities. The observation deck's windows showed both ships floating side by side in space, their combined shields creating a subtle, beautiful resonance pattern between them. It was, Zora thought, a perfect symbol of what they were achieving. Two very different species finding harmony in the vast expanse of space, turning ancient myths into a future filled with endless potential. New horizons. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with an energy that made every crystalline being's resonance patterns fluctuate wildly. Representatives from a dozen spacefaring species filled the ancient hall, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of evolutionary paths. At the center of attention stood the human and Etherian delegation, preparing to present their proposed alliance. Zara stood beside Lieutenant Wang, both now comfortable enough with each other's biology that they'd modified their environmental protocols to allow closer interaction. The past month of joint exploration had produced advances that neither species could have achieved alone. Ready for this? Wang whispered as Captain Chen and Captain Nexus approached the central platform. We're about to change everything. Change is what humans do best, isn't it? Zara replied, her crystals shimmering with anticipation. The Council Elder, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient mechanical shell, raised their consciousness wave to signal the beginning of the session. We have gathered to witness an unprecedented proposal, they announced. The integration of a mythical species into our galactic community and the formation of a new type of interspecies alliance. Captain Chen stepped forward first, her confidence evident in every movement. Honorable Council, a month ago, the crew of the Aetherian vessel Starweaver discovered that humans were more than myths. Since then, we've discovered something even more important, that our differences are not obstacles, but opportunities. Captain Nexus's command crystals pulsed in harmony with Chen's words as she continued the presentation. We've prepared a demonstration of what our combined capabilities can achieve. Yuri and Rodriguez stepped forward, carrying what appeared to be a simple crystalline sphere. But as Yuri's research crystals activated, the sphere began to glow with an inner light that made several council members lean forward in fascination. This is a quantum resonance core, Rodriguez explained. It combines human fusion technology with Aetherian crystal manipulation. It can power a city, shield a colony, or drive a starship, all while producing zero waste and actually cleaning up quantum distortions in space. Impossible, declared the mechanoid representative, their circuits pulsing with skepticism. Such technology would violate at least 3 known physical laws. Actually, Yuri responded, his crystals gleaming with pride. It only violates the laws as we understood them before. Humans have a remarkable ability to make us question our assumptions about what's possible. The demonstration continued, showing breakthrough after breakthrough. The hybrid shield technology that had saved both ships during the quantum cascade. New medical treatments combining human cellular regeneration with Aetherian crystal healing. Environmental systems that could support both organic and crystalline life forms in perfect harmony. But it was the final revelation that truly captured the Council's attention. We call it the bridge, Wang announced, activating a small device on her wrist. Immediately, her consciousness linked with Zora's crystalline matrix, their thoughts and perceptions merging in a carefully controlled fusion of organic and crystalline awareness. Through their shared perception, they addressed the Council. This is more than just communication. It's true understanding. The ability to see through each other's eyes, to share knowledge and experience directly, to learn not just facts, but perspectives. The Council chamber erupted in a chaos of voices, questions, and exclamations. The Elder raised their consciousness wave again, restoring order. This is unprecedented. The implications for interspecies relations are staggering. That's exactly why we're here, Captain Chen said. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community. But we don't want to just take our place among the stars. We want to help build a better future for all species. Our proposal, Captain Nexus continued, is the establishment of the first Human Aetherian Innovation Institute. a place where our species can work together to solve the challenges that face all of us, and we invite all Council species to join us in this endeavor. The Council chambers filled with discussion, debates, and questions, but Zara, still linked with Wong through the bridge, could sense the growing excitement. The old stories about humans had painted them as dangerous survivors from a death world. The reality was far more interesting. They were innovators, problem solvers, beings who saw challenges as opportunities and differences as strengths to be embraced. Hours later, as the Council voted overwhelmingly to approve the alliance, Zara and Wong stood in the observation dome, watching the stars together, each seeing them through both human eyes and crystalline sensors. "You know what I love most about humans," Zara said through their shared consciousness. "It's not your ability to survive anything, or your technological innovations. It's how you dream, how you look at the impossible and see potential instead of limitations." Wong smiled, her thoughts resonating through their connection. "And you know what I love about Etherians, how you can take our chaotic human ideas and find the perfect crystalline structure to make them work. We dream big, you help us build it right." Below them, the quantum resonance core powered up, its light spreading through the station in a beautiful merger of human and Etherian technology. Ships from a dozen species were already docking, their crews eager to join in the new age of cooperation and discovery. "The old myths about humans got it partly right," Zara mused. "You are incredible survivors. But they missed the most important part. You don't just survive, you thrive. And you help others thrive with you." "That's because the galaxy's more interesting with friends to share it with," Wong replied. Through their link, Zara could feel her genuine excitement about the future they were building together. As they watched more ships arrive, their crews ready to join in the greatest experiment in interspecies cooperation the galaxy had ever seen, Zara reflected on how far they'd come. From believing humans were myths, to discovering they were real, to realizing they were exactly what the galaxy needed. Beings who could turn any challenge into an opportunity for growth, any difference into a chance for innovation.